Don't be a wandering generality, be a meaningful specific. Hi, this is Jim Gibson with Business Sense Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to talk about goals, and hopefully in a different way than you've heard in the past. I picked up a book years ago, back in the early 80s. It was from Zig Ziglar, and it was See You at the Top. And I'd recommend that you get this book and read it. It is fantastic. And yes, that's his name, Zig Ziglar. That's really his name. A lot of people never heard that before, and they think it's kind of strange. He's from Yahoo City, Mississippi, and he's probably one of, they call him the salesman's salesman. He did fantastic, and he talks about his life in this book where he would wake up in a house that he couldn't afford to heat, and he went down and drove a car that barely made it anywhere, and he was pretty poor as a salesman until he decided in life that he needed to change things. And in life, you are actually a result of the decisions you make. And if you don't have goals, most likely you're going to end up with bad decisions. You're going to wander all over the place, and you're not going to be very specific, and you're not going to accomplish anything of significance. A lot of people look at successful individuals and they say, oh, they're just lucky. And I can assure you that there's no such thing as luck. It just does not exist. In fact, I remember one of my managers years ago had a poster above his desk, and it said, "The harder I work, the luckier I get." And I tell you this, it's not only hard work, but you also have to have a purpose in the work. You have to have goals. And I know a lot of people talk about goals, but the one thing they don't talk about is purpose. The goal has to have a purpose, has to have a meaning. And we're going to talk about them. There was a time in my life where I did not have goals. And you know what happened? It was a hard time feeding my 2 little boys in Philadelphia. And I decided one day that I couldn't live life anymore like that. That I had to make decisions and not let life happen to me. But I had to make decisions, and I had to drive to get to those decisions. I had to put effort into them. I had to make it a focus. And I think that's where a lot of people miss things when it comes time to set goals. That, they talk about all the fancy acronyms like SMART goals. And by the way, that's a good acronym. It's a good thing to think about. And we're going to get back to that in a minute or two. But then they forget that those goals had to have focus and they had to have purpose. And in your mind, if you're not completely convinced that you should have goals and there should be a purpose to them, and then you should spend most of the time focusing on those goals, you'll never accomplish anything. And if you think there's anything such as luck, then you're really in trouble, because there's no such thing as luck. People who are successful become successful because they have goals. As the old saying is, where you are today is because you've decided years ago to be there. And that's true. Fat people have decided to be fat because they put the food in their mouth. No matter how harsh that may seem, they decided, in effect, to be fat because they decided to eat enough to make them fat. And, sometimes I overeat, but I take responsibility for my decisions. But also I realize that without goals, then I'm just a wandering generality, and I can accomplish nothing. No one has ever accomplished anything in this life without goals, without a purpose, without a focus. So today we're going to talk about some specifics. And, when we talk about goals and how to form goals, I don't mind that little acronym that says, SMART goals. They should be specific. Of course they should be specific. It's not a goal if it's not specific. And remember, each of the topics I talk about from that acronym, SMART, is going to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So let's go through each of those very quick. Specific. You got to have a goal that's specific. If it's just, someday I'm going to have a slim body and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be able to run marathons or whatever it is. Or I'm going to make $1 million. Or, I'm going to buy this house. That's not goals. That's just a wish. It's like, why waste your time even thinking about it? The someday stuff aren't goals. They never will be goals. So you have to start out with specifics. If you want a house that's a certain type of house. You don't say, well, I just want a really nicer house than the house I have. That's a bunch of nonsense. So let's talk about some of those SMART goals. And the first thing is specific. You have to be specific. You can't say, well, I'd like to lose some weight. And that's one of my goals is to lose weight. No, that's not a goal. Gosh, that's not even worth saying. That's just a wish. It's not even a wish. You really don't want it. You can't accomplish something unless you want it. And all this talk about things that I kind of want in the future is just a waste of time. It's wasting your time. It's wasting my time. It's wasting your life. You cannot accomplish something that's not specific. In fact, you wouldn't even know if you accomplished it unless it was specific. If you want a nicer house, well, what size house? What neighborhood should it be in? How many bedrooms should it have? What does it look like? What type of roof does it have? What type of land around it should it have? Be specific when you set a goal. Now, next thing on SMART goals is measurable. Can you measure it? It's not a goal if you can't measure it. I mean, it's a great goal saying, I just want to be happy. Well, that's not really a goal, okay? Because it's not measurable. You can't measure how happy you are. It's good to say that, I decided I want to be happy. Well, that's great. I'm glad you decided you want to be happy. But that's not a measurable goal. Now, I want to make $1 million, or I want to have $1 million in the bank, or I want to have $1 million in real estate. Now, that's specific. Now, that is measurable. So the next one is obtainable. How obtainable is your goal? If you sit there and you say, well, by the time I'm 35, I want to walk on the far side of the moon. Well, that's not obtainable. That's stupid. It's a stupid goal. It isn't going to make sense. A lot of people have stupid goals. So don't have stupid goals. Have obtainable goals that are something, that actually has a value to it. Next, relevant. How relevant is the goal? As I think I already discussed some of that. We talked about walking on the far side of the moon. And then, of course, last is time bound. By a date. Put a date on it. If you don't have a date on it, you're just, don't even write out your goal. It's just a waste of time. It really is. All these things that people do on January 1st, actually December 31st, they're little goals that they're going to do for the next year. No one ever does them. It's just a waste of time. You know what I do? I do the anti-New Year's Eve goals. I refuse to set goals in December for the next year. I just refuse to do it because it's so stupid to set those stupid goals. I'm going to be skinnier, and I'm going to be richer, and I'm going to be smarter, and I'm going to be better looking. And they're just stupid goals, man. They really are. They're not actually goals. They're just stupid ideas. And you're only lying to yourself. Remember, SMART: specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time-bound. That's SMART. But I'm going to add some things to it. Okay? And the things that I add to it that have worked for me over the years is you got to have a focus. It has to be a focus goal. It has to be something that you do every day. You have to, you can have the big long-range goals, and that's what you should have. I'm going to be a millionaire. Okay? Well, that's fine. What are you going to do today to become a millionaire? What are you going to work on today that makes you a millionaire in 5 or 10 years? Because 5 or 10 years is a relevant time frame. Do you need to go back to school? You already heard my idea of going back to school, but sometimes in certain careers, that's what you need. If you're an entrepreneur, what type of business are you going to start to make you that $1 million? And what can you do today to get you into that business? What certifications do you want to start studying for today? Getting up early in the morning. Don't tell me you don't have time. You have plenty of time. You waste time. People waste time. I waste time all the time. I sit there and I watch TV and I watch the goofy shows on Netflix sometimes that are completely waste of time. Now, that's okay if you decide, you just need to kick back and take it easy for a while and everything else. And, and everybody needs a break. But if you do that day in and day out and everything else, look at the hundreds and thousands of hours that you've wasted, that you're not going to reach the goals that you set in your life. And something, having a goal of being a millionaire, there's nothing wrong with that goal. There's nothing evil about it. There's nothing wrong about it. And I'm going to talk about finances in the future. That's a big subject. And I'm going to point out how most people's thoughts on finance are completely wrong. Completely wrong. So the topic is focus. What is your focus on your goal? What do you plan doing? And that focus not only should be long-term, but it also should be daily. Do you wake up in the morning? Do you think about your goal? Do you go to bed at night and do you think about your goal? As you're at lunch, do you think about your goal? All during the day, are you focused on your goal? And sometimes that means letting other things go by the wayside. The heck with Netflix, man. You're never going to get anywhere if you keep on watching Netflix and you keep on watching YouTube. And I shouldn't say that because you're listening to YouTube right now. But you shouldn't be spending hours doing it. You know, if your goal is to get out there and run a marathon, then what are you going to do today? What are you doing today? You know, what are you doing about it? Are you running today? You know, let's say, well, I can only run, a quarter mile. Well, that's fine. Then run a quarter mile today. Then tomorrow you run a little bit further. And you keep on adding to it till pretty soon you're a ultra marathoner, if that's what your goal is, if that's what your focus is. But it should be daily. So long range matched with daily goals. What are you doing today? What's the first thing you can do to reach that long-term goal? And then a next thing is purpose. What is the purpose of your goal? You know, I remember my dad telling me a story about a friend of his who was supposed to be like a super genius, 160 IQ or more. And he was really smart. He was unemployed. And his main purpose in life was collecting match covers. Match covers. That was his main purpose in life. I mean, I can't get excited about collecting match covers. I'm sorry. I can't. You got to have something that gets you excited about the future. Well, I'm going to make, X amount of dollars. It's not that big of a deal, and I know I could reach it. No. Pick something big. Become a millionaire in 10 years, 5 years. It's possible. People have done it. Figure it out. Research it. I did fantastic financially working and running my own business because that's what I wanted to do, and I had a purpose. I saw the business from day one, what it was going to be, and it was very successful, and I turned out to be very successful in doing that business. But the purpose got me up in the morning. It woke me up. It told me, that I had to go to do something today. At the time I was working at Burlington Air Express, and I decided I'm going to start my own business. I'm not going to do this my whole life, working at Burlington Air Express. Now, of course, Burlington Air Express is no longer around, but it was a great company, and they were fantastic people, and I had a great time there. But I decided I wanted to be in business for myself. I didn't want someone to tell me I could only make so much money per hour or per year or per month or whatever. I did not want that. I wanted open-ended. If I worked harder and I worked smarter, that I could do better and I could make more. So that's when I decided I'd go in business for myself. And I got very specific. I said, what do I need to go into business? And I think I said in some other podcast that the first thing I needed was a ladder. I didn't have a ladder. I couldn't afford a ladder. I had 4 kids. Had a lot of expenses. I had to get to a point to where I could not only get the ladder and do the work on the side, but I had to work enough on the side to gain business, to gain customers. So I could prove that I could pay for all my expenses and pay my own health insurance and feed my kids. So I decided that I had to do that. And you know something? That woke me up every morning. I had a purpose every day. What am I going to do today? And sometimes those purposes also worked in the fact that it helped Burlington. So if I wanted to have certain products in my business and Burlington wanted me to do research for certain products, well, that was great. Because actually, I was not only getting paid by Burlington, but I was working for myself also. So you had to have purpose. And, getting back to that idea of easy goals, someone's at the New Year's Eve party, and they're going to set New Year's Eve goals. Well, goals that are easily set are easily forgotten. I remember my wife and we got off of this idea years ago. And, we're doing pretty well and cruising along. When you start cruising, man, you're in trouble. I'm going to be honest with you. But we started cruising and we started setting some goals and we would talk about them and everything else. We'd write them down. But we never turned them into daily goals. And because of that, we didn't accomplish some of those big goals that we set years ago. And so goals should be, someone said, once you have a goal, you're halfway there. Well, that's not something that you set, on a 31st of December to do for the next year. You got to think about it. You got to have details. You got to do your research. What is it going to cost? What is the cost of this goal? What's the relevance of this goal? What is my purpose in setting this goal? Is it a good purpose? Something else Zig Ziglar said that really made a lot of sense to me back then before I was goal-oriented. And that is, he would say, go as far as you can see. And when you get there, you'll be able to see further. So I turn that into the phrase, I do the best I can with what I got today. And then tomorrow, if I have more or I have something different, then I do the best I can that day to accomplish my goal. So he would say, set a goal, go as far as you possibly can. You don't have to have every detail figured out, but go as far as you possibly can today. And then once you get to that portion of your goal, you'll be able to see further and you'll be able to set a bigger goal. Some good ideas. You got to read his book, man. It's fantastic. The other thing also I would read is 10X Rules from Grant Cardone. It's a fantastic book on setting goals also and how big they should be. And I think that's one of the problems I've had over the years. I've been very successful in business, but my goals haven't been as big as they could have been or should have been. Anyway, this is some ideas on goals. If you don't have any goals, then you're not going anywhere. You're just wandering around and you're never going to reach anywhere. No one has ever achieved anything in life of significance without goals. And you should have major goals, and you should be something that breaks down daily. And you should be thinking about them when you wake up in the morning, and you should be thinking about them when you close your eyes at night. Goals are wonderful things, and you can accomplish a lot of things, but life is short. Don't wait. Don't keep on putting it off. Set your goals. Get them started. Start thinking about them at least. Write down your ideas, and then get back to them the next day and write down your ideas. And then do your research of what you'll need to accomplish the goal, and do that and have a purpose in them. Keep them focused. Don't be a wandering personality, a wandering generality. Be a meaningful specific. Again, this is Jim Gibson with Business Sense Podcast. Thank you for listening today, and I hope I inspired you to go do something. Just don't sit around contemplating life, but take action. You have a great day.